Only a short break, like I say. We are back for the next panel session there, coming thick and fast. Hopefully you're enjoying your time here on ASI Connect, having a look around on the desktop and on the app and getting networking to your heart's content. And hopefully you've found ASI Connect so far a very useful tool. We'd love to hear from you. You can get in touch using the hashtag ASI Connect, and we'll be able to have a look into your minds and see what you think of this event. But let's get cracking with the next session then. As I say, they did come thick and fast. 11:45, that's the time right now. And standing by, Chris Aylett is here, the CEO at MIA. Chris, over to you. I'm looking forward to this one as well.
Well, so am I. I can't wait to hear what we're going to say. It'll be interesting and entertaining, and I hope your audience enjoys it with us.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
May I just move on and introduce our guests? This is Chris Aylett, and I'm Chief Executive of the Motorsport Industry Association, known by many as the MIA. We're the only industry association focusing on motorsport and high performance in the world, actually, and it's based here in the heart of Motorsport Valley in the UK. And we've got 4 good friends of outstanding companies that operate within Motorsport Valley and in the field of motorsport and beyond. And they're going to give you some insights and thoughts about how their companies operate, how they're getting on right now and what they see for the future. And we can answer your questions as best we can when they come through. So I have a group of people. Jim Morris, he's Managing Director of Lifeline Fire and Safety Systems. Hand in the air, Jim, just to know that you waving to your audience. That's Jim. David Hamblin, Managing Director of AP Racing. There you are, David. Daniel Chilcott, Group Business Development Director, Polar Technology Management Group. That's a long title, Dan. Thanks. And Matthias Danker, Motorsport Director at McLaren Applied Technologies. Now, each of us are going to have a chance to talk to one another, but I think what I'm going to do, because he is on the committee of the MIA, I'm going to start with you, Jim, to just let our friends know a little bit about what your fabulous company is doing in the world of safety.
So thank you, Chris. So Lifeline is my business. It's 27 years old, and we are primarily a motorsport safety business and long-term members of the MIA. We manufacture fire suppression systems, safety harnesses, steering, quick release mechanisms, safety lights, and other associated products. In our little world of motorsport safety, we like to believe we're the global leader. We export to approximately 43 countries, and we supply just about every major motorsport category you can think of, from Formula One to NASCAR to Le Mans, down to grassroots level motorsport, as well as off-road.
Well, that's a pretty good start, and we'll scamper through each one of you. How about that, David? David Hamblin, can you better that? Can you capture the entire AP racing activity? This is like a good lap time, isn't it? Your sound is not on, David. Welcome back, David.
Can you hear me now, guys?
We can. There's a little delay, but it's well worth waiting for. So go ahead. I'll start again.
Okay.
Hello, David.
Hello, Chris, and apologies. So AP Racing, to capture its long history, it's a name that's been pretty synonymous with motorsport, heading back since the mid-60s. Predominantly, we make brakes and clutches for all series, really, in motorsport, from F1 going down to the very important grassroots level of motorsport. In recent years, we've branched out a little bit. We have a growing, I would say, niche OEM business. Niche sports car OEM business, and also an upgrade business, and particularly in China, where the British brand certainly is a big fillip for us.
Well, that's good, David. Daniel, can you summarize your Polar Technology Group? I know there's a couple of divisions, but go for it, Daniel. I've set you a rapid.
Sure, no problem. Thank you, Chris. So Polar Technology Group is a sort of a group name for 2 kind of main operating brands or businesses we have within there. We've got SST Technology, which are world leaders in specialist fabrications, exhaust systems, insulation, additive manufacturing. And then we've got a composites business capability in lentus composites, and that business is really expert in composite manufacture in using two processes: a filament winding process, where we make lots of products like prop shafts and pressure vessels for high-end racing cars, automotive and aerospace applications, and pressure vessels for, again, for Formula One applications. And then on the other molded side of that business, we're making active aero devices for, again, high-end automotive. So both businesses reside in 180,000 square foot campus in Oxfordshire. And yeah, we're really excited about the future and the trajectory out of this this last 12 months, really.
Thanks, Daniel. Well, Matthias, a recent recruit from AVL in Austria, now sitting down there in McLaren. And perhaps you could tell us about McLaren Applied Technologies and introduce yourself. Thanks, Matthias.
Yep. Thank you for having me here. McLaren Applied Technologies, or McLaren Applied, with now more than a 20-year history in motorsport electronics and data analytics, initially founded around the vision that real-time electronic control systems would become a major part in premium motorsports. And there we are now, more than 20 years later, delivering control systems down to analytics software, where I think motorsports is the prime pinnacle of how you can generate insight out of the data you collect. And these days, that's not only focused around motorsports, but we try to leverage, and we're leveraging this into other industries as well, may it be transport, automotive, or the general industry systems. So focused around motorsports electronics, and then everything coming down to data analytics and software.
Well, that's a great introduction, and I've realized, I think what I'll do, if you don't mind, gents, I'll introduce the MIA, and that's, I'm the fifth member of this gang. I should introduce us by saying the easiest way to say it is Motorsport Valley is a trademark of the MIA. And Motorsport Valley is a very important cluster of businesses. It's a global business, and where 30% of the sales turnover, which is more than £10 billion, is reinvested in research and development. 4,000 companies in Motorsport Valley and 41,000 employees. So it's an industry that the UK is proud of, and we're proud to be the trade body for that sector. We can just say that it encapsulates what we're doing. 8 out of 10 Formula One teams have chosen to have a base in the UK. They're not all headquartered here, but they're based. The number of exports, 87% of our companies export. So we are an international industry. It's a global business that happens to be based in Britain, and of which we're very proud. I would just touch on what we have, a product that we have at the MIA. We launched a school for race engineering 10 years ago, which has already educated thousands of global people who want to know the race engineering. And we run a live school, 2 or 3 a year at Silverstone, and the rest of the time we do many online. So look it up, School of Race Engineering, MIA.com is our, but many people are finding it of great value, including employers who are increasingly sending their employees to our school. I don't know whether I've now lost my sound. I can't hear myself, but that's nothing wrong. So I tell you what, I'm going to move back to, I had an interesting conversation with Matthias. I hope you can hear me, Matthias. And I'm going to ask you, since you left Austria and came to Motorsport Valley, I've always been curious to know, Austria is a fabulous center for motorsport and influence. But now you've come over to Motorsport Valley. Is there something that you can tangibly feel about doing motorsport business in the UK? I'd be very interested to hear.
Motorsports business, the UK does it significantly differently. Or let's put it the other way around. Does it the other way around? European motorsports on the contestant side is very much driven by OEM. You have BMW Motorsports, you have Audi Sport, you have Porsche Motorsports. So OEMs branching out into motorsports. And the same also applies to the companies being suppliers to the motorsports industry. Those are large industrial or automotive companies having developed a motorsports brand and a motorsports branch in their activities over the last years. AVL, one of the prime examples, Bosch Motorsports, whilst Bosch is the big part of it, Bosch Motorsports is the smaller outreach into motorsports. If we now blend it up, and that makes the British Motorsports Valley very unique, we have a lot of traditional race teams here that were founded as race teams as their sole purpose. McLaren just being one of those, our sister company with McLaren Racing. We have Williams here. We have so many motorsports companies, and even Cosworth Electronics, McLaren Applied Systems, a lot of companies that were founded within motorsports and now do their reach out into other industries and see how they can leverage their technologies into other series of automotive as well as other industries. I think that's the prime difference. So Motorsports Valley has its core around motorsports, while other companies still being successful in motorsports in Europe are reaching out into motorsports. I think that's the prime difference.
Oh, it's good to hear a newcomer into the marketplace based in the UK to know whether we've got an asset that we should be proud of. Jim, maybe you'd be kind enough. Your family has been in the business of motorsport for a long time. And not only are you supplying the high-level motorsport around the world, but you're also very intrinsically part of the UK motorsport scene, aren't you?
Yeah, no. So I was very fortunate. I grew up around motorsport. My dad competed semi-professionally back in the probably late 70s, early 80s. Drove for VW in what we call British touring cars now, and I grew up around various racetracks in the UK and decided at a fairly young age that that's where I wanted to stay and what I wanted to do. So that was why I set Lifeline up. And I also competed a little bit myself now because I'm an old person, I race in historics, and I have a couple of cars that I enjoy doing, but historics should never be dismissed as a centre for technological innovation, because historic cars aren't really like the historic cars that we raced in the 50s and 60s. And if you ignore historic motorsport as a business opportunity, do so at your peril.
Jim, you may as well be prepared. I'm going to ask you to explain a little bit later on. I hope you can hear me. I can't hear myself speak, so I've heard myself before. The fun thing about dealing with Lifeline is the way you have to explode things and blow them up to check whether the fire suppression works. And I'm going to come back to you to expand on that. But the one I love is you're building cash machines. Is it ATM cash machines that can't catch fire? We'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
It makes your audience feel comfortable that it's that amount of research. David, AP Racing, how, I'm sure people say, well, this is going to be a change for you. If electrification arrives, that changes the whole challenge, if I may say. I don't want this to become a discussion of electrification, but isn't it interesting to know how even that change is going to affect, I hope profitably, AP Racing? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I think essentially a braking system on a motor racing car from its very foundations hasn't changed for 100 years, or it's been refined, but essentially you have a friction device that slows your vehicle down. With electrification or zero emissions vehicles or hybridization, in effect now you have two braking systems on a car. You have your traditional friction system, and you have motor braking, which in themselves they're both well-known elements. And I guess the challenge, and where we're investing very heavily, and we see it as a real growth area for us, is getting those two systems to work together in a seamless way. Now, we're doing it for a little while, but they have an army of people at each in each garage trying to delight. Most teams don't have that luxury. So as I said, we're investing very, very heavily to develop systems, to develop processes and products to be able to bring those two systems together, sit seamlessly on motorsport vehicles, which is at the very highest level of duty. Many road cars already have these kind of systems. When you're doing 70 miles an hour and braking gently, it's much simpler. When you have a driver doing 200 miles an hour expects to pull up at 3G at a corner, it gets very exciting very quickly. So definitely a growth path for us. We're investing new technologies. Being in Motorsport Valley is excellent because there's know-hows around. There's joint ventures to be had to bring all this technology together. So yeah, where there's new development, there's certainly new business, and that's for all around the world as well, not just in the UK.
Yeah, that's positive news. Daniel, your company is based on new technologies when it was originally founded, which I remember really well. Presumably the company sees lots of opportunities in this changing decade ahead. I know the audience will be interested. I think you were involved in one of the crash bar programs. I don't know whether you still are, but that was kind of rather forcibly promoted by our friend Roman Grosjean. But you've got one or two interesting future technologies that you're involved in, I believe, whether it's lenses or SFP. Share it with us, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Chris. Yeah, so I think not sure how many people know, but we're one of I think only 3 or 4 approved halo suppliers. So we went through all the development and the testing at Cranfield, and I think we are the only UK supplier of those structures. So evidently it's really done a good job in the last 12 months. So yeah, we're really proud of that. But yeah, I think our products across the group fit into sort of probably 4 main categories in terms of we've got the fluid and heat transfer with exhaust systems and pressure vessels and pipe work. We have kind of quite a capability in lightweight structures. So lightweight structures, you could class the Halo as a lightweight titanium structure. We're doing titanium structures for hypercars as well, where they're kind of subframe components that all need that sort of integrity. So we see that as a really growing trend. And on the composite side, clearly there's similarities there with lightweighting, but also electrification is big for us as well. Although we're involved with the internal combustion engine on the exhaust front, that's getting more and more efficient. So we're employing our insulation technologies to try and make that those emissions reduce and the efficiency increase. But we are involved in electric motors, in magnet retention, rotor supply, battery boxes and containment. I think there's all these real key areas that we're trying to apply our trade and our technologies to help us leap out of kind of where we are. So yeah, really quite exciting, and making sure that we're taking advantage of the opportunities that arise.
Yeah, Daniel, I call it a decade of change. Having heard what you say, Matthias, you're next in line, because I'm going to say McLaren Applied Technologies were right at the forefront of Formula E activity. I know they were doing battle with Williams, but your organization has always been an integral part of measurement, I'm going to call it in general terms, with Formula One and indeed in America. Can you just explain that to our group? Because that demonstrates that not only are you racing in a series, but you're actually supplying a product to your competitors in the UK. And in America, I believe you're very close to NASCAR.
Yes, so I think there is, just to clear up with a little bit of the confusion, McLaren Group has 3 big different companies. One is McLaren Racing, which is the Formula One team, which races in IndyCar, and hopefully in a few seasons from now will race in Formula E. We have McLaren Automotive building sports cars, super sports cars, and hypercars. And then there's McLaren Applied, and McLaren Applied's mission is how we can make a better future with the technology that we are spearheading in motorsports. So whilst McLaren Racing is our sister company, it's one of our customers. And that's also a little bit the peculiar situation that we're in, our sister company, one of our customers, is directly competing with a lot of our other customers. But there is a big trust into McLaren Applied that nobody's taking advantage of that. And we don't make race cars faster. We don't make engines more powerful. We provide tools and platforms for our customers being faster in gaining their engineering insight and making their engineering decisions. And while we have been now supplying for more than 12 years, no, 14 years, the sole supply ECU into all of Formula One. We have been providing the sole supply powertrain into the Gen 1 Formula E car. Currently, all Gen 2 Formula E cars are racing our battery, but the same, we were successful managing over this year. We have the 10th season in a row that we provide all of the control systems into NASCAR, and we provide all of the control systems and a lot of other devices into IndyCar. So electrification is only a part of what we do. Our heart and core sits at electronic control systems, offloading this data and analyzing this data. And whilst it is a good tool and a good platform for the teams and manufacturers to raise their products, it's also a very good platform for the governing bodies that they can use our control system to automatically police their regulations. Regulations become more and more complicated, no matter if it's Formula One or down to NASCAR, where the technology might be a little bit more similar. The regulations are even as complicated. And it's hard for anybody to keep an overview if what the contestants are doing is within the regulations. So our control units give the governing bodies at the same time the capability to police the regulations in an automated, objective and fair way.
You know, Matthias, I love the way that you speedily move through the fact that this is centered on great trust. Ever since this whole program with McLaren started, everyone, whether it's in America or in the UK, say, boy, that is a lot of data. That's a lot of information that's going through your company. And you've handled it really, really well without, as far as I know, without any scandals or leaks. Now, I'm just going to move back, Jim. I started off by saying I love the fact that you occasionally send me videos of your test processes. There's two things that interest me. What is this about exploding cash points? That's one thing. And the other thing is our audience may want to know how complex a fire in a battery is compared to a good old-fashioned burn up with petrol. Maybe you just share it with our friends.
Okay, so Chris, as you know, we took great advantage of the initial MIA to defence scheme that you set off in the mid-2000s, and we benefited from that greatly. So it's made Lifeline look outside of the motorsport arena at other opportunities, and it's something we continue to do. We were approached by a company in the last 18 months who got an issue with exploding cash machines. Cash machine has one weakness apparently, which is the note out slot. So it's common practice apparently to fill those full of acetylene and then use a 12-volt battery and a spark plug to set an explosion within the cash point, which effectively blows the safe out of the back of it. And it's quite a problem. We were actually testing in the last 48 hours again down at Salisbury Plain, and we've actually stopped that with a system that we developed for ProDrive back for the Safari Rally in the 90s. It's still the same hardware that we're using, different suppressants, but we've actually managed to stop that explosion process going on now for 2 minutes of gas fill. So that will be a product that we'll be producing internally probably within the next 6 months. So a total departure from motorsport. Obviously, like all the other members of this committee, we're all faced with the challenge of electrification, and obviously going away from the IC engine and standard sort of fossil fuels that are used to power those engines, and we're looking at electric. There is probably as big a danger of fire with a battery as there is with a petrol engine. So we've been doing quite a lot of extensive testing and research into battery fires, and we now have probably one of the only dedicated facilities in the UK where we can now reliably set a battery fire up to about 170 cells. And we have a good understanding of what is required to stop what they call the thermal runaway of a battery, using different techniques and different cooling agents to do that. And again, I think probably in the next 2 years, we will have a new range of products specifically for the EV market.
It's interesting, and thank you, Jim. David, when I was reading some notes with you earlier, there is a feeling that this decade of change almost right across the piece. And when I see 4 different companies like your own, that you mentioned pent-up demand. David, in one of your notes to me. And one feels post-COVID, but also even with the announcement of, and I'm going to ask you all later for a brief poll. Is it the end of the internal combustion engine? Is that guaranteed? Can we sell them and never see them again? But I'm saying to you that, do you get the feeling that post-COVID, there is a building demand in, I say, high performance cars, whether they're in the track or whatever? Take it over from there, David. I was most interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a number of surveys which I think anybody can go online or go to the different survey houses about how people are going to behave post-pandemic. Now we're not quite there yet, but I think it'll be very interesting, as you say, Chris, to see how it does develop. There is a growing number of surveys that said there's an attitude with people going, they've seen now what could happen, and do you know what, life's a bit too short, and we want to go and do. I'm not going to put off what I've been putting off for the last 5 years, because I don't know whether I have the chance to do that again. Now, and there's lots of things going on to say, well, everybody's become a big saver for the last year because we haven't gone on our holidays and we haven't done this and we haven't done that, so we've all got a bit of cash squirreled away. That doesn't feel quite right, but anyway, apparently that's what everybody's doing. So I'm actually quite optimistic, and talking to some of our customers, not just in the UK, but actually China especially, who obviously were very early into the pandemic, but clearly also very early out of it. What we've seen in China is a very strong rebound, and not just in the upgrade, but also in the OEM. So I think, yeah, I am generally optimistic that certainly it might just be a short-term bump, but I think there's going to be more people than not thinking, yeah, that this is the time to get what I've been wanting to do done and get it done.
Right, I'm going to ask for a quick answer. We're getting some questions in, so forgive me, I can't keep going necessarily up and down the group. I'm going to throw this one at you, Jim. It's from Robin. Innovation in the safety for marshals and track staff, is that being considered by the FIA and the various safety committees that you work on? This is from Robin, who's a 2-year rescue marshal.
No, very much, Chris. There are continually FIA standards being developed for, barrier protection, certainly debris fencing. There are new standards involved with that. Systems to replace manual flagging. There are discussions happening now about training. I know the MS UK are looking more at online training, because obviously during the pandemic we haven't been able to get together to do the good training that has gone on in the past. Use of different fire suppressants because of the change into electric, better training on that, different types of wear for the marshals to have, so when they enter into a hazard, they're better protected. So it is something the FIA and the governing bodies are working on incredibly hard. And there are, if you go to some of their, certainly if you look around Europe, there are some businesses that are pretty much set up on track safety. That's all they do. So there's some good innovation coming out there.
Thanks, Jim. And Daniel, I was going to come back to you for another comment about Polar, but we've got another question. It's very cleverly written, so I'm going to ask the panel for their very quick views, but you can go first, Daniel. It's from our good friend Adrian Goodstell. Does the panel, and I'll take it quickly from all of you, do you see electric-only racing, and perhaps Formula E, taking place on current racetracks? It's interesting, that's the last 3 words that we have to consider. So go, Daniel.
Yeah, I think for me, I have to be quite they have to be quite intelligent with where the electric kind of propulsion is used, and obviously Formula E is working on smaller inner city tracks. I think it's clearly that's their niche. That's what's working quite well. I think for the large tracks, I think there's a possibility they might do some scalability and use partial areas, but I think it's inevitable. I think the thing for me is that there's still a lot of life yet left in the internal combustion engine, and making that more efficient. And even when you look at the performance automotive hypercar manufacturers, they're not going fully electric, they're going to a hybrid style approach, and that's going to go on for years to come with supercapacitors, with really quite powerful e-machines. So I think, yeah, it's inevitable, but we'll just have to see over the next few years, I think, as that materializes.
Daniel, I'm going to come back to everyone on that last point you made, but the one was, so let's go to you, David. Formula E or fully electric racing on today's racetracks? How soon, if ever, will that arrive?
So I think my short answer is yes, I think it will happen. Are we there yet? No, I don't think we are quite there yet in terms of the technology to have vehicles, the battery lasting long enough with enough power to rival an ice race. But for sure, I can't see it not happening in this decade, if I'm very honest. And there might be some little sort of hybrid kind of fixes, so maybe a battery change or something like that during the race to make it happen. But I think, I think it will happen.
Yeah, I forgot the time scale, Daniel. It was probably within the next decade. I've just picked that up from David. Go on, Joe. You go next. Well, no, Matthias, what do you think? You're the electric guys. Can you see electric only racing on current racetracks?
Yes, the question is, what do you want to achieve with that? And we always tend to give the answers from the engineer's perspective, but maybe just to sum it up again, motor racing is a professional sport that uses technology for entertainment. So if you ask the question differently, what do you want to show there? I think Formula E is doing a brilliant job at showing motor racing to people who want to see that at the city center. If there are people that want to see motorsport at a circuit and they want to see electric, then we will bring it electric there. And DTM currently is doing that in the next years to come, trying to put together an electric DTM series with crazy power and then just making it a very short sprint race. Why not? So, and there are people who just find it really amazing with a car that you can just hear whiz around, but that starts off with four tires, leaving 4 black streaks there. If there is an entertainment form, if there are people willing that want to see that, we will be serving this master and we will provide it. And I think, yes, it's out there. And we are now getting the technology there. We can do crazy power electric. The range might be limited and make the race shorter.
That's good fun. It's that lovely mix, isn't it, in motorsport that we all know so well. Is it an entertainment or an engineering challenge? And that was a good answer, actually. Yeah, you've got to decide what.
The money.
Yeah, that's right. Jim, you can have the last shot at this one. Will there be electric racing on?
I sort of concur with Matthias. Really, I think that motorsport is is an arena of engineering excellence, but it is an entertainment industry. So we've got to bring what the spectator wants, what the spectator wants, and make it as interactive as possible. And whether that happens on a race circuit moving forward, I don't know. But certainly,
Jim, before I leave you, I'm going to ask the others this question, and then we have to wrap up. But Jim, are we now witnessing the end of internal combustion engine, the last decade, that we'll see the back of them, or are you of the opinion there may be other solutions developing in the next decade that will mean that we have ICE engines for the future, certainly in racing? There you are. Same question for all of you. Go, Jim.
So I don't think the ICE engine will go. I think we'll see it in a more efficient, maybe using synthetic fuels. I'm sure that is probably the better way forward. But I'll hark back to the comment that I made 10, 15 minutes ago, is that we will never see the end of the ICE engine in motorsport because of the popularity of the historic sector.
Thank you, Jim. Matthias? Same question.
Words or an argument which I've learned from you, Chris, is will we race conventional engines in the future? Yes, for sure we will, because mankind has always raced its transport, and we still do, even if it's no longer relevant for daily transportation. We race sailboats, we race bicycles, and the technologies, we race horses. The technology used in these sports is high-end and nothing comparable to what we use them in daily life, even if we use them in a daily life. So will we race combustion engines in the future? Yes, it's entertaining.
I love it. Thank you. You shouldn't always believe what I say, Matthias, but it's nice to hear it.
Sometimes you're right.
David Hamlin, I'm interested, David.
Much to add to the other guys, to be honest. Yes, I think the internal combustion engine isn't going away anytime soon. Whether it be historic, but it is. It's at the end of the day, it's entertaining. Whether it's the noise, whether it's the vibration, whatever it is, it's part of the entertainment package that I can't see disappearing anytime soon. I think it'll be done in a more sustainable way, biofuels, efficiencies, etc. But I personally am a big believer in the IC engine being around for a few more years to come.
Good for you. And Daniel, your final shot on this.
Yeah, there's not really much more to add there. I totally agree. I think it's it will become a more of a special event. You'll go to the racing to see some of these legacy engines. They will be more efficient. There'll be a lot of theatre. There'll be a lot of new fuels. I could see hydrogen playing a part in the future as well. So no, I don't think it's dead at all. It will maintain racing in racing for the years to come for sure.
Well, thanks, guys. And I have to say, we've had a flood of other questions coming in, but we've run out of time. Our lap time is over, and I'm going to end by saying I agree. Don't dance on the grave of internal combustion engine. I'm quite confident that now that there is a focus towards battery technology, it will kickstart an enormous amount of investment in finding out how the future can embrace internal combustion engines. The manufacturing of internal combustion engines has been a staple in countries throughout the world for nearly 100 years. The idea that all of those factories and all of those jobs are going to be transferred to battery technology is beyond my imagination. So there we are. That's the panel view. I'm not sure it'll change a great deal. I want to thank each one of you. That's Matthias Danke, who's McLaren Applied Technologies, Jim Morris from Lifeline Fire and Safety Systems, David Hamlin, AP Racing, and Daniel Chilcott from Polar Technology. And I would just say to anybody listening in, if you want to contact those folk, or you wish to speak with me and tell me that what I've said is right or wrong, please contact us at the MIA, www.the-mia.com. We're here to serve the industry. We love having discussions and debates. And I know every one of these companies would like to work with you or answer your questions. So on your behalf, I'm going to thank you all for listening, and thank you to the panelists, and thank you to Autosport International for putting this event on. And I'm going to hand this back to our host, Bryn.
Thank you very much there, Chris. Chris, I'm just going to say I am 100% in agreement with you. Saves the email, but there you go. I was actually thinking as looking at Extreme E going forward with, I know that AFC Energy, ABB Energy, the way they're looking at creating hydrogen battery storage units that they can take around to different locations and things. If these companies keep developing these sources of hydrogen power, it actually means that the internal combustion engine has a bright future because it doesn't have to be eliminated.
Yeah, I don't know, Bryn, whether you're holding polls, but just for fun, you should put a poll out to your current audience and just say, is this the last decade of the internal combustion engine? Yes or no? I think our old friend ICE will have a long life ahead and a very popular one.
I hope so, Chris. It was a really enjoyable chat. Thank you very, very much for that one. Thank you very much for the panel as well.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great stuff. There you go. It's that weird moment at the end of the chat, isn't it? People don't know if they should wave or say thank you, but a really, really good panel chat. And there we go, internal combustion engines, ICE. It's going to be here for a long time, or is it? Question mark. That one's for you. If you want to get in touch using the hashtag ASI Connect, we'd love to hear from you. Maybe we will put a poll out as well, but there you go. I'd love to hear what you think on that one.